Assalamu alaikum class. I hope that all of you are well and safe in your homes inshallah. For lecture 28 of our course Signals and Systems, we will be studying some properties of continuous time Fourier series. The properties discussed in today's lecture are covered in article 3.5 of your book and are summarized in table 3.1 of your textbook Signals and Systems by Openham. Before going to the properties, just a quick recap of Fourier series. In lecture 27, we saw that the Fourier series gives us the frequency spectrum of a signal in terms of amplitudes and phases of exponential components. Since we were studying exponential Fourier series, we saw that the spectrum was two-sided, that is, it was covering the positive frequencies as well as the negative frequencies. We also saw that the spectrum could be plotted versus k versus omega naught, which is the fundamental frequency, or versus f. A plot of the spectrum versus omega and or f is more meaningful. However, we observed that the variation of the output signal with respect to time is not evident, which means that we did not know that the frequency components present in the signal, in a periodic signal, at which time those particular components were existing. Physically, we can use a device known as a spectrum analyzer to determine the signal spectrum. This is an electronic instrument which is designed to determine signal spectra. We have one in our lab. You'll be using that in your course lab for communication systems. We'll be studying 10 properties of continuous time Fourier series. And as always, whenever I introduce properties of some transform or some method, these are not all the properties that exist for continuous time Fourier series. In fact, if you look at other books, you might find one or two more properties, but these are the properties that we'll be considering for our course. So if a signal x of t is described by its coefficients a of k, where k varies from minus infinity to plus infinity, then the following properties will be applied in the forthcoming slides. Just a quick recap again, that we remember that the coefficients a of k, they varied from minus infinity to plus infinity, which means that an infinite amount of sinusoids or complex exponentials are required to synthesize a signal x of t. So x of t can be expressed through its time domain expression or a frequency domain expression, for which you will be requiring an infinite amount of sinusoids. If you do not use all those sinusoids, because practically taking an infinite amount of sinusoids is not possible, so if you limit those sinusoids to a fixed number, we observed that there was an offshoot at the point of discontinuity, which was named as the Gibbs phenomenon. Except for a pure sinusoid, a single frequency sinusoid, a cosine or a sine wave, which has only one frequency component expressed through two peaks, a peak at a frequency positive omega naught and minus omega naught in the exponential Fourier series omega domain. All other signals, periodic signals, need an infinite amount of sinusoids to synthesize them. The first property we are going to study is linearity. You must have observed that in our course, all the transforms we have discussed, they obey the laws of linearity because linear systems are easy to analyze. So Fourier series also obeys the laws of linearity. If we have a periodic signal with period t and fundamental frequency omega naught is equal to 2 pi by t, then x of t, if it is expressed through Fourier series a of k, coefficients a of k, and y of t is another periodic signal which is expressed through Fourier series coefficients b of k, then in the time domain, if both of these signals are added and say multiplied by some constant coefficients, then the Fourier series of this composite signal will be equal to the Fourier series coefficients if you add the Fourier series coefficients for the individual signals and multiply them by the same factor, which is capital A into A of k, which is the coefficients for x of t, plus capital B into B of k. So instead of taking the Fourier series of the composite signal, if you know the individual Fourier series coefficients, you can just add the coefficients and get the Fourier series for the sum signal. The next property is time shifting. Whenever we think of a periodic signal and we say that we shift a signal, say towards right, which is time delay, or towards left, which is time advance, we see that the time period of the signal does not change. So the period of the signal is preserved. So let's say that you shift a signal by an amount equal to t0. The Fourier series coefficients will be as a result multiplied by the exponential e minus jk omega naught t0, where t0 is the amount of shift you have given to the signal, and this factor is a phase factor. So the magnitude of Fourier series coefficients does not change, because if you delay or advance a signal, the frequency content of the signal does not change. There is just a phase part which is added to the signal. So only the phase term will change. This property is consistent with our observation from Laplace transform. Whenever we have a delay, we have a complex exponential being multiplied in the other domain. For time shifting, we should keep in mind that this minus t0 appears as minus t0 here, or the sign of the complex exponential is the same as the sign of the delay or advance. If it is plus t0, then we will have a plus t0 over here. So let's see an example to illustrate the time shifting property. We have to determine the Fourier series coefficients for this waveform from this waveform. Observe that I have used a square wave for this waveform, both these waveforms rather. Why? Because for both these waveforms, the positive amplitude and negative amplitude existed for an equal amount of time over a time period. If, for instance, you have a waveform where the positive amplitude exists for more or less time than half the time period, then it will be called a rectangular wave. I don't know whether you have studied it in electronics or not, but when the positive amplitude is equal to the negative amplitude, it is also known as it has a 50% duty cycle. So if we observe the waveform on the left and we compare the waveform on the right with it, we'll see that this waveform x of t is basically shifted left by t by 4 units. So it has a time advance of t by 4, because initially it was starting with from 0, and now you take it and you just take it t by 4 units on the back. So the waveform on the right exists. So we have a time advance of t by 4, or the shift is x, this signal, if this is y of t is x of t plus 4. From lecture 27, we recall that the Fourier series for the square wave was ak is equal to minus j 2a by k pi for odd values of k. For even values of k and for the DC value, we had ak equal to 0. Now if we determine the magnitude of a of k, we get 2a by k pi, which was a decreasing amplitude, if you remember. For the phase term, we observe that we have two distinct phases. When we have k positive odd values, then because of this minus j, we have a phase shift of minus pi by 2. And when this k is negative, then the negative sign of k and this negative cancels, and we have ak is equal to positive j2a by k pi for negative odd values of k. So then we have a phase shift of pi by 2. This phase shift can also be written as e raised to power j pi by 2 or e raised to power minus j pi by 2. How do we know that this is phase and not frequency? Because if it was frequency, then we would have had a t multiplied by the power of this complex exponential. And we also know that phase into time is frequency. But since there's no time term t appearing, so therefore we know this is phase. So it was clear from the figure that y of t is equal to x t plus t by 4. So we have a phase advance or a left shift by t by 4 units. Applying time shifting property, x of t plus t by 4, the Fourier series will be equal to e j k omega naught t by 4, which is the shift, multiplied by a of k. Now if we open the power of the exponential jk omega naught t by 4, this becomes equal to pi by 2. Therefore, y of t, the Fourier series of y of t is e j k pi by 2 into a of k. We remember that the magnitude of Fourier series coefficients remains same, that is bk is equal to ak as a virtue of the time shift property, only the phase changes. Now the phase of bk is the phase of a of k plus this phase, which is k pi by 2. When we add both these phases, we can observe 4 distinct cases. ejk pi by 2 has a value of pi by 2 for positive 1, 5, 9, etc. values of k. That is when for k is equal to pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 9 pi by 2 and so forth, the phase is pi by 2. Sorry, when the k is 1, 5, 9, the value will be pi by 2. Then this expression k becomes 3, 7, 11 and so forth, the phase will be minus pi by 2. Why? Because we remember if we open e j k 3 pi by 2, we have cos of 3 pi by 2 plus j sine 3 pi by 2, and cos of j pi by 2 is equal to 0 and sine of 3 pi by 2 is equal to minus 1. So we get minus j, which is a phase shift of minus pi by 2. Similarly, for k is equal to minus 1, minus 5, minus 9 and so forth, we'll get the phase as minus pi by 2. And for k is equal to minus 3, minus 7, minus 11 and so forth. This is all for all these k's we observe there is a gap of 4 points. After every fourth value we get the same value. So it has a period of 4, we can say. So we get pi by 2 for k is equal to minus 3, minus 7, minus 11 and so forth. I'll suggest you people to just put 2 or 3 values of k for each of these k's and you can come at the same conclusion. So if we solve it, so the phase of b of k is equal to the phase of a of k plus k pi by 2, and the phase of a of k is minus pi by 2 for even values of k and plus pi by 2 for odd values of k. Similarly, on the previous slide, we have seen 4 instances for the values of k pi by 2. So when k is 1, 5, 9 and so forth, that is a gap of 4 units, we'll see bk is equal to minus pi by 2 plus pi by 2, which equals to 0. Similarly, when k is equal to 3, 7, 11, and again after every interval of 4 units from the previous unit, phase of decay is equal to minus pi by 2 minus pi by 2, which is minus pi. When k is minus 1, minus 5, minus 9, and so forth, b of k is again equal to 0, and when k is equal to minus 3, minus 7, minus 11, and 4 units from minus 11 from the previous unit, phase p of k is equal to plus pi. So when we plot the magnitude spectrum of this signal is the same as the magnitude spectrum for x of t. The difference comes in the phase spectrum. For the phase spectrum, we see that for 3 of omega naught, 7 of omega naught, similarly 11 of omega naught, and so forth, will have a phase of minus pi, and for negative frequency, minus 3 omega naught, minus 7 omega naught, minus 11 omega naught, and so forth, will have a phase of pi radians. Again, we observe the symmetry properties of Fourier transform are true in this case because the magnitude spectrum is even symmetric and the phase spectrum is odd symmetric. Coming to the third property of continuous time Fourier series, which is the frequency shifting property. The frequency shifting property states that the spectrum of a signal can be shifted by multiplying the signal by a complex exponential e raised to power jn omega naught t, where m is the integer by which the spectrum is shifted and omega naught is the fundamental frequency. This property can be seen from the frequency domain side, and we can see that if the spectrum of a signal is shifted, this means that in the time domain a complex exponential is being multiplied by the signal. However, in this case, the sign of the complex exponential is different from the sign of the shift. For example, if m is positive, then this means that the spectrum has experienced a delay, whereas in the time domain, a positive power exponential is being multiplied by x of t. It should also be observed that as a consequence of the frequency shifting property, we can see that the frequency contents of the signal are changed, because now the frequencies, whenever the frequency is delayed or advanced, that means the frequency content of the signal changes. So now the originally appearing frequency content of the signal, the magnitude will be the same, but now it will appear at a different frequency. We'll see this through an example, but to summarize, list the application of this property is a common phenomena in communication system, which is known as the amplitude modulation. In communication systems, amplitude modulation was traditionally used for voice transmission, radio transmission, etc. So this property uses frequency shifting. On this slide is a typical illustration for sinusoidal amplitude modulation. Here, a sine wave information signal, which is a low frequency signal, is used to modulate a high frequency carrier. The carrier wave is capable of traveling large distances. So as a result, the time domain waveform of such a signal looks like this. And the frequency domain content you are going to determine for a signal y of t is equal to cos 10t into cos t, where cos 10t say is the high frequency carrier signal and cos of t is the low frequency signal which is being transmitted. So cos of t is the signal x of t which is being shifted in frequency by multiplying it by cos of 10t. So we open cos of 10t through Euler's formula in this form. For cos of t, we observe that the frequency omega naught is equal to 1 radian per second. So when we multiply the Euler's formula applied cosine form, we get two expressions. One is half e j 10t cos of t and the other is half e minus j 10t into cos of t. I divide this into two parts, and observe the first factor first, ej10t cos t, and we obtain the Fourier series for this part. So we remember that cos of t had a Fourier series of, it had just two components which existed at the fundamental frequency, which for our case is omega naught 1 hertz, and the first component at k is equal to plus 1 and minus 1 was 1 by 2. All other components were 0. When we multiply it by e to the power j10t, now we have a positive sign here. So over here, the spectrum will be shifted by minus 10 units. So we have a minus 10 plus minus 1. Similarly, for the second part, e raised to power minus j10t cos of t, the spectrum would be a 10 plus minus 1. As a consequence of this expression, we'll get two values. One will be at a 10 plus 1, which is at a of 11, and the other value is a 10 minus 1, which is a of 9. So we get two values, one at the ninth k is equal to 9, and the other at k is equal to 11, and both of these values are just for one exponent. So overall b of k is half a minus 10 plus minus 1 plus half a 10 plus minus 1. I am going to plot the spectrum of the signal on the next slide. So now bk is the expression shown on the slide. So we remember that a of k was plus 1, was existing at omega is equal to 1 and minus 1, and it had a value of half and half. So after we apply this property, this is what we get. For this vector, half a minus 10 plus minus 1, we get half 1 by 2 into this 1 by 2, and now minus 10 minus 1 is minus 11, one value here and one value here. Similarly, for this expression, we get this spectrum, one value here and one value here. So after we multiply both these cosines together, we get two lines on either side of frequency. So we can say that we get two frequencies of cosine waves, which is what is there. We are getting, when we multiply cosine cos of t into cos of 10t, we can open it through the trigonometric multiplication of cosine identity, and we can see that as a result we can get a sum of two cosine waves. One will be at a frequency of 9 omega 9 radians per second, and the other frequency will be omega 2 would be 11 radians per second. So this is this spectrum or this waveform appears when we multiply two cosine waves together. We get a sum of two cos as a result. You can see for the right side that this part was a consequence of e to the power minus j10t cos t, and this part is a consequence of e to the power j10t cos of t. Since these slides involve a lot of figures, so I have already made these figures and then put them on the slides so that they are easy to explain. I will suggest you to make these figures yourself on your notebooks. When I am explaining, pause and then record and then make, so that you can follow each of these steps exactly. And in case you get stuck at any step, you can always message me, and you have seen that I respond within a day. Together all the shifting properties together, the amplitude shifting property says that for a signal x of t, if the signal x of t is being multiplied by a constant coefficient a and a factor b is added to the signal to form another signal y of t, then if we denote the Fourier series of y of t by b of k and Fourier series of xt by a of k, then the coefficients are modified in such a way that the new coefficients b of k will be a multiplied by a of k. This comes from the linearity property where k is not equal to 0, and for the 0th coefficient we'll have a naught from the linearity property again, plus this b, the constant term, which is the DC term, will be added to the term. So the term b naught will be modified, will have a factor b added to it, and it will be multiplied by a, whereas this term b will not affect the other coefficients. So the phase, what about the phase? The phase of the Fourier series remains unaltered, because this is something which is only shifting the magnitude of the values. So the phase b of k is equal to the phase a of k. So to illustrate amplitude shifting property, let's look at the waveform given as y of t. We have to determine the Fourier series coefficient for this waveform using the Fourier series coefficients of the rectangular wave x of t. If we observe y of t, we can see that this waveform is actually derived from xt in such a way that xt has been given a DC offset of say a units, so that this point becomes 0 and this point becomes 2a, and afterwards it's being divided by 2 so that we get a. So we can write yt as shown on the next slide. Yt is equal to xt plus a by 2, which is equal to half of xt plus a by 2. Now we remember that the Fourier series coefficients of ak are given by ak is equal to minus j 2a by k pi, for k is equal to odd. So bk becomes half into these coefficients from the step above, which becomes minus ja by k pi for k is equal to odd. Similarly, b naught becomes half of a naught plus a by 2. But since a naught is 0 for the square wave, so we get a by 2. So as a result, our spectrum is something like this, where we get magnitude a by pi, a by 3 pi, a by 5 pi, and so forth, and the magnitude at omega is equal to 0 is a by 2. The phases remain unaltered in this method. The next property in our series of properties is the time reversal property. This property states that if the signal x of t is flipped so that it becomes x of minus t, then its Fourier series coefficients are also flipped, that is, they become a of minus k. So the time reversal property applies to continuous time signal, results in a time reversal of the corresponding Fourier series coefficients. A consequence of time reversal property is that if x of t is even, then its Fourier series coefficients are also even, and if x of t is odd, then its Fourier series coefficients are also odd. You should keep in mind that over here, the overall coefficients are taken and not the magnitude and phase are taken separately. That is, ak is equal to magnitude of a of k into phase of a of k. So this property is applied to the overall coefficient a of k. Time scaling property of the Fourier series. Now if we remember from our initial discussion of signals and systems for chapter 1 and 2, that time scaling is an operation which changes the period of the signal so that the signal is compressed or expanded. So if we define x of t as our original signal, then xa of t is a compressed version of itself if a is greater than 1, and it's an expanded version of itself is if a is less than 1. So what time scaling does is, if you are compressing a function, this means that the function is now facing faster changes, so that means that the frequency content is increasing. And if the signal is expanded, it means that the signal is now facing slower transitions, so the frequency is reduced. So this what we have discussed can be applied in terms of Fourier series as, if we say x of at with a is greater than 0 and now the new signal is periodic with a period t by a, then the Fourier series coefficients are ak, which means that the magnitude of the coefficients are the same. Now we remember that whenever we plot Fourier series, we plot it with respect to k and we just plot it with respect to omega naught, and we always say that the plotting against omega is more meaningful. So we are going to see it through an example on the next slide at how time scaling affects. But the concept we discussed implies that if a function is expanded in time, it means that it is compressed in frequency. Because now the transitions are slower, that means it's a slower moving signal, so it is a lower frequency signal. And compression in time implies expansion in frequency, because if the signal is transitioning faster, it means that its frequency is more now. So the Fourier series coefficients as a result do not change because of the change of the fundamental frequency. Just the presentation change, the Fourier series coefficients do not change. So let's go to the next slide to see an example. Now we determine the Fourier series coefficients for y of t, which is a time-scaled variant of x of t. And x of t is the same square wave which we have been discussing since the last lecture. I have altered the time scale slightly in a way that now t of x, t subscript x, represents the time period of the original square wave, and t subscript y represents the time period of the new square wave. Now if we look at the diagram, I made sure or tried my best that if you look at these figures, you can observe that now in this one positive side, the entire wave passes, so that now ty is tx by 2. For this square wave, the time period is half the time period of the original square wave x of t. So if the period of x of t is t of x, the period of y is t of y is tx by 2. Therefore, the signal is compressed in time by a factor of 2. And compression in time means that now y of t is equal to x of 2t. The spectrum for both a of k and b of k are plotted in this figure. As a consequence of time scaling, we know that the coefficients remain the same. The coefficients are not altered. However, their location on the w-axis changes. So initially, if omega naught x, if the value 2a by pi was on omega naught x, and then 2a by 3 pi was on 3 omega naught x, and so forth. Now the values 2a by pi will be on omega naught y, 2a by 3 pi will be on 3 omega naught y, and so forth. Why I have drawn these values expanded is if, say, we suppose that omega naught is equal to 1 radians per second. Now we remember that since the signal is a compressed version of itself, so the relationship between omega naught y and omega naught x is omega naught y is twice omega naught x. So if omega naught x is 1 radian per second, omega naught y is 2 radians per second. When we have 3 radians per second for the AK graph, then we have 6 radians per second for the BK graph. Similarly, now 5 gets multiplied by 1, and over here 5 gets multiplied by 2. So now we can see that although the function was squeezed or compressed in time in the frequency domain, the spectrum is expanded, and now the spectral lines are placed further apart. If we have to convolve two periodic sequences, then we use the periodic convolution property of the Fourier series to observe the spectrum. If xt and h of t are two periodic signals with Fourier series coefficients given as a of k and b of k, and we convolve both these signals together, then the Fourier series coefficients for these signals get multiplied to each other, and they also get multiplied by the constant t, where if both the signals have the same period, then t is the common period. Otherwise, if the signals do not have the same period, then t is the LCM of t1 and t2. This property is also consistent with our observation from Laplace transform, where we remember that convolution in one domain is equal to the multiplication in other domain. So convolution in time domain is equal to multiplication in frequency domain. What happens if we have to multiply two periodic time domain functions together and observe the Fourier series? If x of t is the first periodic function and its Fourier series coefficients are given by ak, and y of t is the other periodic function whose Fourier coefficients are given by bk, and they have a common fundamental frequency, then if you multiply these two signals, the Fourier series coefficients are convolved in the frequency domain. So this convolution is aperiodic since the Fourier series spectrum are aperiodic. The Fourier series spectra are aperiodic, they are not periodic. The time domain sequence is periodic, the frequency domain sequence is aperiodic. Again, convolution in one domain implies multiplication in the other domain. If x of t is a complex periodic signal and we take its complex conjugate, then the Fourier series for this complex conjugate will be the complex conjugate of ak coefficients as well as a flipped version of the ak coefficients. So there will be a conjugate of minus k. So first you will flip a of k to form a of minus k, and then you will take the conjugate. But you know that I've told you guys, in signals and systems course you will not be given any complex signals. This is since conjugate are going to be used in the future, so I just thought that I'll introduce this property. And also this property is useful for proving the relationships which we said that if xt is real and even, the Fourier series coefficients are real and even, and if xt is real and odd, then the Fourier series coefficients are imaginary and odd. This was done in symmetry properties in lecture 27. So these symmetry properties can be proved through the conjugation property. The final property we are going to discuss is the Parseval's relation or Parseval's theorem. The Parseval's relation is a method of determining the power of a signal from its Fourier spectrum. Since we said that the Fourier series or Fourier domain frequency domain representation of a signal is equivalent is an equivalent form of its time domain representation. Therefore, the power of the signal can also be determined from its spectrum, and the power is equal to you sum all the squared ak coefficients over the entire duration of k. So the average power of a signal is the sum of average power of its frequency components. Let us apply this theorem to find the frequency, to find the power of a periodic signal from both the time domain and the frequency domain perspective. So to determine the power of a cosine waveform from time domain perspective, we remember that the formula for power is you square the signal and you integrate it for a period. So when we square cosine signal and integrate it over a period, following the steps shown, we get power is equal to 1 by 2. When we apply Parseval's theorem and determine power from the frequency domain representative, we have the formula power is equal to summation ak magnitude square from k minus infinity to plus infinity. We know that for a cosine wave, we only get two components ak, which are at a plus 1 and a minus 1, and the value of those components is 1 by 2. So we add 1 by 2 square plus 1 by 2 square, and we again get 1 by 2. So we can prove that if you take power from a time domain representation, time domain waveform, or this frequency spectrum, the value is equal. When you are taking a cosine wave, the value will be exactly equal, because for a cosine waveform, we only have limited ak components. However, we have been discussing that an infinite amount of sinusoids is necessary to synthesize a periodic signal. This means that we either add all those infinite values of k to determine the power, but in actual life we cannot take infinite sinusoids, or whenever as a communication and electrical engineer we are sending a signal over a medium, the medium has a finite bandwidth, which means that up till a certain amount of frequencies can be transmitted over the transmission line or over the transmission medium. So we have eventually all the signals, all the frequencies will not be transmitted. So there's a certain amount of power that must be transmitted, and as an engineer you have to be sure to know what amount of power is transmitted. But say for instance the cosine, the square wave which we have been using for these two lectures, I ask you to determine its power from both a time domain and a frequency domain perspective. We'll see that you add 3, 5, 7, 9, 15 harmonics. The power will get close to the time domain expression, but it will not be exactly equal. Why I am saying it is because this is going to be one of your numerical problem to solve as a practice for this chapter. Finally, the symmetry properties that we discussed in lecture 27 are also summarized in table 3.1. The properties, I've given these properties on the slide, and I am telling you how to read those properties so that you can solve your numerical reasoning and you're able to use the table. The first property is conjugate symmetry for real signals. If x of t is real, a of k is equal to a conjugate minus k. This means that the magnitude is even symmetric and phase is odd symmetric. But this is a fancy way to write these expressions, that if a of k is equal to a hysteric minus k. This also implies that real ak is equal to real a of minus k, or imaginary of ak is equal to minus imaginary a of minus k, which means magnitude is even symmetric and phase is all symmetric. So all these things, these two factors come from this property, and these two factors come from this property, or this is equivalent to this. So all these are equivalent forms. You are going to use this to solve some book numericals, so you have to be sure that you understand what it means. Similarly, for real and even signals, we remember if xt is real and even, then a of k is real and even, and if x of t is real and odd, then a of k is purely imaginary and odd. As a concluding example for this lecture, we'll be solving example 3.9 of our book. This is a good example because it tests so many of the concepts of this lecture that we have discussed about the properties of Fourier series. So we are given a set of information about signal x of t, and from this piece of information we are going to determine what the signal x of t is. So we are given that x of t is a real signal, which means that the symmetry properties might be used here. Then x of t is periodic with period t is equal to 4, and it has Fourier series coefficients a of k. Okay, we'll see how it helps us. A of k is 0 for magnitude of k is greater than 1. This means that we have just 3 coefficients, a1, a0, and a minus 1. The signal with Fourier coefficients b of k is e minus j pi k by 2, a minus k is odd. Now this has certain things at play. Number one, a of minus k means that there's some time reversal involved. This factor is being multiplied with the coefficients, which means that there's some time delay involved, and then the resultant signal is odd. So we'll see how it helps us. And finally, the power of the signal is half. So this means that we can use the Parseval's theorem to determine something about the signal. Now to solve this example, I have not solved it because this example is solved in the book. I leave it to you to solve this example, and in case you are unable to solve it yourself, you can message me and then I'll make a small presentation like this and put it on my YouTube channel. But I'm sure that the example is solved, so you'll be able to do it if you listen to the lecture carefully and solve the numericals which are being done along with. Finally, problems. Since this lecture again is majorly made from your book, but some of the examples that I discussed are not from the book, so I wanted to make a comprehensive problem set, problem sheet, which will be delivered to you by Tuesday. It will not be having a lot of problems, 10 to 15 maximum, but these problems will cover all the aspects of the properties of the Fourier series that we have discussed so far. I suggest you to solve all the examples that we have done in the class yourself. And in case you face any problem, you're most welcome to contact me through WhatsApp, call, comments on the YouTube lecture, email, anything. I'm here and always available for your help. Thank you. All the best. Allah Hafiz.